As with many decades-old franchises, the lore of Sonic the Hedgehog has steadily been built up over time. To say that all of that build-up has been consistent would perhaps be overly generous, but the world of the Blue Blur has certainly been expanded upon greatly during his over 30-year legacy. In more recent years, though, Sega has been making a greater effort to tie everything together. They still have quite a long ways to go in that regard, but an effort is certainly being made. Perhaps one of the most intriguing yet confounding aspects of Sonic's lore, however, has to be the power system. Over the years, we've been introduced to a variety of different magical MacGuffins, energies, and abilities that can perform a variety of different incredible feats. Today, I want to take a deep dive into this topic and see if we can make a little more sense out of all these disparate powers. Perhaps the best place to start is by going over the powers that I like to call all-natural. What do I mean by that? Well, take Sonic himself, for example. He is the fastest thing alive, capable of instantly breaking the sound barrier with nothing but his own 2 feet. Over the years, different continuities have tried giving Sonic different origin stories for his super speed, but in the mainline continuity, he is just naturally that fast. That's it. No crazy sci-fi or mystical origins for the Blue Blur's speed. Sonic the Hedgehog can simply run this fast because he can. Sonic is far from the only example, though. Miles' tails per hour has, well, 2 tails that serve as the basis for his nickname. As a child, he was apparently bullied relentlessly for this, implying that such things are far from common. Later on, though, Tails realized that he could rapidly rotate his appendages in order to fly. Definitely not a power commonly associated with foxes. Then again, Cream the Rabbit is also capable of flight by using her big floppy ears like a pair of wings, something that even her own mother doesn't appear to be capable of. Tangle the Lemur can stretch her tail out to impossible lengths. You also have characters whose abilities are a little more vague. Like Knuckles, Big, and Vector are all shown to be able to perform feats of incredible strength, but whether or not that counts as super strength is kind of open for debate. Similarly, Mimic the Octopus can shapeshift as an homage to octopus camouflage, but whether or not that's a power that all octopi have in Sonic's world is not super clear. The same goes for Espio. Is his invisibility a natural power as a chameleon, or just a result of his ninja training? Then you've got the Psychics. Blaze the Cat was born with pyrokinesis, while Silver the Hedgehog has psychokinesis. You've also got Marine the Raccoon, who is shown to be using some kind of power at the very end of Rush Adventure, though what exactly this is has never really been confirmed. The general consensus from fans, though, is that it's probably hydrokinesis, which would suit Marine's name and her affiliation with the ocean. You've also got Clairvoyant, who has the power of clairvoyance. She can see the future to an extent, though it's sadly not always enough to make a difference. But yeah, if it weren't obvious, a number of characters in the Sonic mythos just seem to have been born with some kind of genetic mutation or oddity that allows them to do all kinds of crazy things. It's not something that really has an explanation, like the X gene or quirk factor or whatever, and honestly, I don't really think it needs one. In other contexts, I'd say some people just have powers because of reasons is kind of a lazy explanation, but it's Sonic the Hedgehog. I don't think we really need to question it here. However, there are some characters and entities who have notably less natural abilities. Arguably the most prevalent example in this character category is Shadow the Hedgehog, the bioengineered ultimate life form. Shadow technically has 2 sets of powers, both kind of related to one another, but ultimately not one and the same. The first we'll take a look at are a somewhat newer addition, the Doom powers. Shadow is part alien. He has traces of extraterrestrial blood from a race called the Black Arms baked into his DNA. Not a whole lot is really known or understood about the Black Arms, but their bodies appear to be partially comprised of this mysterious gooey substance that they can manipulate in various ways. Shadow, though, seems to be capable of manipulating his form even further than the typical Black Arm. He can launch his goo as projectiles, grow wings, turn it into a bizarre squid-like entity that surrounds himself, or even summon a sort of manta ray-like creature that allows him to travel on water. Of course, the powers were only unlocked during the Shadow Generations part of the Sonic X Shadow Generations crossover by the direct intervention of Black Doom. After this, Shadow presumably lost access to the Doom abilities for good. The other notable thing about the Black Arms, though, is that they seem to be capable of directly utilizing Chaos Energy on some level, giving Shadow the same ability. The exact connection between the Black Arms and Chaos Energy is never fully explored, but, well, Chaos Energy has never been particularly well defined unto itself. The Chaos Emeralds have been a part of the Sonic franchise since pretty much the very start, though their exact powers and abilities have always been somewhat nebulous. That's just par for the course in a franchise that essentially makes up its lore as it goes over the course of decades, I suppose. The most notable thing Chaos Energy can do, or at least the thing it's probably best known for, is its power to manipulate time and space. With it, users can slow or freeze time, or even sometimes travel through it, as well as move themselves or other objects vast distances in an instant. This technique, called Chaos Control, is extremely versatile, capable of bringing about miracles or calamities. The other notable thing about Chaos Energy, though, is its ability to affect living beings. We see time and again that this power can mutate creatures in a variety of ways, but more often than not turns them violent and extremely powerful. However, for those with strong wills and noble hearts, Chaos power can grant them super forms. I hardly think anyone needs me to go in depth here, but for the sake of being thorough, a super form is achieved when a single person gathers all 7 Chaos Emeralds and absorbs their power, or in some cases, absorbs the power of the Master Emerald. The super forms share a number of similarities in their general power set: super strength, flight, a degree of invulnerability, and also becoming very, very shiny. However, the biggest benefit of a super form seems to be taking one's own natural abilities and cranking them up to 11. Sadly, we don't have too many canonical super forms to use as a reference. Sonic, Shadow, and Silver all get a major boost to their speed, energy attacks, and psychokinesis, respectively. There are other super forms of note, but Tails, Knuckles, Amy, Mighty, Ray, and Trip are all kind of in a weird spot right now in terms of canonicity. There is one other super form that we can discuss right now, though, albeit it's kind of a weird one. Burning Blaze is achieved when Blaze the Cat utilizes the power of the Soul Emeralds, her own world's equivalent to the Chaos Emeralds. Not a whole lot is really understood about these emeralds, though. Whether they can utilize the same powers as Chaos Emeralds is kind of up in the air, but they do seem to allow for similar feats. Whether or not this means it's possible to use Chaos Control with a Soul Emerald, though, well, jury's still out on that one. But if we're discussing gemstones with vague powers, Sonic's got plenty of those to run through. Probably the most well-known at this point is the Phantom Ruby. Allegedly, its power is to create illusions. Illusions so convincing that your mind might even be tricked into believing that they're 100% real. However, it does appear like the Phantom Ruby is also capable of actually affecting reality in some ways, which muddies the water a bit. For one thing, it was able to turn a bunch of egg robos into the hard-boiled heavies, giving them all unique powers and abilities almost akin to super forms. The Phantom Ruby is also shown to have the power to open gateways to other dimensions, including a nigh-endless void called Null Space. Its powers are inconsistent, to put it bluntly. Another mystical gem of note is the Warp Topaz, debuting in the IDW comics. This thing has the power to open up portals that lead seemingly anywhere. If the Topaz has any sort of range limit, it's a pretty generous one, as Sonic was able to open up a portal from Earth to the freaking sun. Alas, doing so did wind up overcharging the Warp Topaz, causing it to explode. So it's not really around anymore. If there is a gem that can control space, though, it follows that there should be one for time. Or multiple, I suppose. The Time Stones debuted in Sonic CD. Like the Chaos Emeralds, there are 7 of these things, and they likewise have the power to perform miracles when gathered. Specifically, the Time Stones can apparently alter the entire landscape to simulate what it'll be like in the distant past or future. That's right, instead of time travel, it's basically bringing alternate time periods to you. Honestly, a little terrifying when you think about it, but the Time Stones remain on Little Planet and haven't even been brought up again outside of that one line in Generations. I suppose if we're discussing mystical stones, though, then we also have to address the Master Emerald. This thing is essentially a giant Chaos Emerald that can do seemingly what all the other 7 emeralds do on its own. Not only does the Master Emerald keep an entire floating island airborne all by itself, it even allows people to achieve superforms. Though for some reason we've only ever seen robots use it for this purpose. Theoretically, the Master Emerald should also allow people to use chaos control, but again, we've never really seen it do that to my knowledge. Beyond the gemstones, though, there are a few different types of energies in Sonic's mythos worth noticing. In Sonic Colors, we're introduced to Hyper-Go-On energy, a form of energy generated by aliens called wisps. For simplicity's sake, though, I'm just going to call it hyper-energy going forward. This energy is, unsurprisingly, very ill-defined. Sonic uses it to take on a myriad of different forms by fusing with different wisps, implying that the energy itself actually changes in some way based on the wisp's colors. No one but Sonic has ever utilized hyper energy in this manner, though. Rather, most utilize wisp energy or hyper energy through machines. The most common way this is done is through specialized guns called wispons, which can fire off different colored energy depending on the wisp located inside. That being said, Eggman once used hyper energy to fuel a kind of mind control device. Whether or not this means hyper energy innately has that power to do that is, unsurprisingly, kind of up in the air. Then there's a power that doesn't exactly have an official name, but for simplicity's sake, we'll just call it dark energy. This stuff is emanated by Dark Gaia, an ancient godlike avatar of destruction that resides in the planet's core. Dark energy has the power to not only spawn monsters, but also corrupt the minds and bodies of living beings. We see it causing people all around the world to become manic or depressed after sundown, though it also turns Sonic into his infamous werehog form. Dark energy has, of course, only appeared in one game so far, so it's unlikely that we'll ever see it cropping up again anytime soon. Another extremely nebulous form of energy are the power cores. These things were introduced in Sonic Heroes, and were used to upgrade the abilities of your party members throughout the game. They typically fell from defeated enemies, but could be gathered from item balloons and the like as well. Power cores come in 3 colors: red, blue, and yellow, symbolizing the strength, speed, and flight characters of each team respectively. Now, for the longest time, I would have probably written off power cores as just a gameplay mechanic rather than an actual canon thing, especially since they're never really addressed at all in the actual story. Until the IDW comics, in which Dr. Starline creates a special glove that allows him to utilize power cores. Though he can only wield one at a time, shifting between red, blue, and yellow cores allows Starline to either become extremely strong, fast, or lightweight. So the power cores utilize some kind of energy that enhances specific physical attributes. But that's about all we know. Where they come from or what sort of power they embody is kind of up in the air right now. The last form of power to talk about is, well, magic. This is primarily seen in the Sonic storybook games, Secret Rings and Black Knight. Characters within the realms of these stories are capable of wielding mystical powers with a pretty wide and varied range of abilities, from granting wishes to summoning beings from other realms. There's frankly not a whole lot to say about, really. It's magic, and not the kind with a hard-built system in place. In the worlds of the Arabian Nights and King Arthur, just about anything can happen with a little spellcraft, including characters breaking the fourth wall and affecting the world outside the story, apparently. So what's the takeaway from all of this? Well, I suppose the point of this video was simply to make a comprehensive listing of all the different powers and abilities, characters, and entities in the Sonic mythos can draw from. Of course, I realize that there may be some I forgot about or glossed over, but that feels kind of inevitable with a franchise like this. At the end of the day, while Sonic the Hedgehog may have greatly expanded its lore and world building since the Genesis days, this is a franchise that still ultimately doesn't care too much about delving deep into its power system. Again, Sonic can run at super speeds because he can. Gemstones that can bend reality exist because they do. It's the kind of storytelling you're not meant to think about too deeply, and sometimes it's best not to, but the topic can be fascinating to contemplate regardless. So what do you all think of Sonic's power systems? Do you think it's fine, or do all the nebulous energies and unexplained aspects of the world rub you the wrong way? Leave your thoughts and comments down below, and until next time, stay bright.